Hi, I'm the Moorlander and this is Moorlander EDC. Today we're going to talk specifically, hopefully to answer 3 questions that I'm commonly asked off the back of a few other pieces of content that I make. So these 3 questions are specifically from the piece of content that I made on UK knife laws, this hoax around the banning of machetes and some other things like that. But predominantly they all revolve around our ability to defend ourselves, whether that's in public, defending others, whether you can use an object to defend yourself, and also the defense of your home and the people within your home. Now, quickly before I start, I think it's important to note that I'm not a barrister, I'm not a lawyer, I'm not a solicitor. I'm just what I consider an educated citizen. I've read up quite a bit on this, I've watched quite a lot of videos on this. However, I'm not the utmost authority on this. So whatever you hear today, this is just to give you a base level of knowledge so that you can then improve on that. Check the .government website, check all of the links that you can do. Also have a look on YouTube, especially people like Black Belt Barrister. He has a lot of information on this. The second one is that this is predominantly England and Wales. I consider myself a true Briton. I am part Welsh, I'm part Scottish, so I often refer to us collectively if I use the term UK when really I'm talking about England and Wales. At this point, I apologise. I'm just used to saying that. So please don't get your knickers in a twist. Okay, now the first question: can I defend myself? Do I have a legal right in the UK? I've done it straight away. Do I have a legal right in England and Wales to defend myself? The easy answer to that question is yes, of course. The government would certainly not want anybody not to have the right to defend themselves. When they talk about your defence or your personal defence, it also is an extra point to the defence of others. If my daughter was being attacked, then as a male and her father, I would rush in to help her to her defence. So the self-defence and defence of others is exactly the same thing. One of the things that you'll hear, and you'll find a lot when the lawmakers are talking about defence is reasonable force. So this really is, let's call this oranges for oranges, apples for apples. If you're attacked and somebody attacks you with their fists and hands, then reasonable force should be the equivalent force back to be able to defend yourself. And that's really what the whole thing kind of hankers around. Now, really it comes down to the point where the police will probably turn up after this altercation has happened, and they will ask what happened. You'll need to prove to them that it was within self-defense. There's a very good job that the police are going to detain everybody there. You'll all get took away, and then it may possibly go to the courts. However, it's down to the Crown Court for the prosecution to go, well, actually, is there a case here? No, we can see from X, Y, and Z that this was self-defense. So it may not even get to the point where you'll be charged with a crime. But that's not to say at the point of that first altercation that everybody there is probably going to be detained and took away by the police. It's down to your barrister and the information that you give. So at that point, it's incredibly important, because of the Miranda rights and so on and so forth, that you say that this was self-defense and, explain why you used that force. Off the back of that, the second question that I'm asked a lot is, am I allowed to carry something to defend myself? The quick and honest and simple answer to that is no. Unfortunately, here in England and Wales, I nearly said UK then for a second, here in England, England and Wales, unfortunately, carrying an item purposely for the ability to defend yourself is a premeditated act that then turns that defensive weapon into an offensive weapon, and it is covered. It's not allowed under the Offensive Weapon Act, which doesn't help anybody really. unfortunately. So things like mace, pepper spray, although the police are allowed to use that as citizens, unfortunately we're not allowed to use that in self-defense. That isn't, however, to say that an object cannot be used to defend yourself, and there's a very subtle thing here. So let's say, for example, the police come to something, there's an altercation, somebody's on the floor, that I've used something to defend myself. What did you use? I used a self-defense stick that I carry as a cane. Alright, okay, what was the intended purpose of carrying that? Self-defense. That's an offensive weapon. You will probably be charged under the Offensive Weapon Act. A similar situation for that would be, police turn up, similar situation, person on the floor, they've been knocked out, used a stick. Okay, what was the situation? Well, I actually walk with a cane. Okay, what is the purpose of that cane? The purpose of the cane is to help me to walk, right? And did you use it to defend yourself? Well, I just happened to have it with me, so I did. It's a very kind of strange situation, and it's a very fine subtlety between the two. Can I carry a brick to defend myself? No. If I am attacked and I find a brick, can I pick that up to defend myself? Yes, the brick was not carried intentionally to harm another person. It just happened to be there. There were 6 others of them. You used it, and a brick is probably a terrible example. I don't know why I used a brick, but hopefully that illustrates the point. Carrying an object to use in a defensive manner flips the law on that, because you intentionally have carried that with the plan to harm somebody else. Yes, unfortunately it was in self-defense, and really the courts should kind of acknowledge that, but it was premeditated that you were planning on inflicting pain on somebody with that object should the situation arise. Now, the next question that I get asked a lot of kind of ties the first two together, but really, rather than being in public, this is more so within your home. So, am I allowed to defend myself, the people within my property, and my property, should somebody try to gain access to it? Just to take a step back, so I know there may be some people from, especially specifically North America, probably watching this, where you have certainly different rules. Home invasions in the US are certainly different to home invasions here, where somebody might try, they'll gain access to your property, and there's a good chance that they may have a firearm. Here in the UK, the chances of a firearm being carried are minimal. I'm not saying that it doesn't happen. However, a firearm in a home invasion, it doesn't happen as often. Some pistols are very difficult to get over here, so if there are home invasions, they tend to be home invasions with other items, whether they be baseball bats or other things like that. So if somebody tried to gain access to my property, I am perfectly within my rights to defend my property. Again, as a male, as a father and a husband, I will do whatever I can to ensure that my wife and 2 daughters are safe and fine. And I want to touch on that little object bit, and using an object for defense like I had for previous. So let's say you needed to use an object. Again, using an object to defend your property is still within the realms of the law, depending on how it was used or how it was stored. Say, police turn up, somebody's on the floor, you've got a cricket bat in your hand. Where did the cricket bat come from? Well, I keep it by my front door. Why do you keep it by your front door? I keep it there just in case somebody breaks in. So that was premeditated. An item was stored by the front door to inflict harm on another person. Should the incident arrive, it's classed as an offensive weapon. If you're a cricket player and you enjoy playing cricket on a Tuesday and Wednesday night, maybe on a Sunday as well, at the top of the stairs is all of your cricket kit. You've got your pads, your whites, your cricket bat in there. You can hear somebody breaking in. You can hear people talking about what their intended actions are once they have broken in. You go across the landing, you grab your cricket bat, which just happens to be at the top of the stairs in said cricket receptacle container bag. You go downstairs and you use the cricket bat to defend yourself and your property. It's different than having something there that was premeditated, and again, it's a subtle difference between the two. Now, the idea of reasonable force still is kind of within this realm. You should use reasonable force to dispel these people from your property. However, there's almost a small caveat in there, which I'm just going to read from here. So apologies, I have to kind of keep going back to this. So as well as the law acknowledges that in the heat of the moment, sometimes an individual may use force that while at the time seemed they believed necessary on reflection was actually disproportionate. The law appreciates that this may not have been done with any malicious intent and therefore gives the individual the benefit of the doubt. So if it is that you use disproportionate force to eject said people from your property or to defend it, then at the time it may seem that was sufficient for them for you to defend it, whereas afterwards somebody might say, well, do you think it was a little bit too much force? Probably, but at the time I felt that it was necessary. That is what they consider as disproportionate force. There's another slight kind of grey zone which they call gross disproportionate force, which would be, let's say, ex-attackers are unconscious on the floor, you still have your cricket bat and you're just wailing on them. That is disproportionate force. Once those attackers are just kind of, taken out of the equation, then you should not continue to attack them. It could also be that once they have left the property and you run down the street after them, maybe you get in your car down the street to run them over, that is grossly disproportionate force, and again is yes, it's illegal. I hope that helps. Now, I really do want to stress the point that I made at the beginning of this. Hopefully this is just a little bit of extra information on, one, whether you're allowed to defend yourself, two, whether you're allowed to use an object to defend yourself, and also whether you're allowed to defend your home and your property, and also those differences on reasonable force, on disproportionate force, and also gross disproportionate force. I would highly recommend checking the .gov website. I'll leave the links to the bits that I've read from here so that you can read them more. If you're concerned about this sort of stuff and you want to get more advice, then contact the Citizen Advice Bureau. Contact a lawyer. If you have any lawyer friends, then ask those. I stress at the beginning of this also mentioned Black Belt Barrister. I'm not going to leave his links below, mainly because I don't want him to feel like I'm trying to take some clout for him. However, if you do search for Black Belt Barrister, you'll be able to find him very easily, and he's done a lot of content on this sort of stuff in the past and goes into ridiculous amount of details with it. Having also watched this, please don't assume that now you've watched this you can just go around beating everybody up willy-nilly. This isn't just a call to action to just go out and commit heinous crimes. This is just some information because there's a lot of people out there worried that they just simply don't have the right to defend themselves here in England and Wales, which it's far from that. You certainly do, and just look after yourself and also look after others around you if needs be. So yeah, well, of course, I'll leave all of those links below. I hope this has helped. I'd also the conversations that we've had in the comments in the past also in the past have been fairly respectful. So I'd like to hear where you are in the world. How does your ability to defend yourself differ from it does here in the UK? Again, let's just keep it polite, people. But I can't really stop that anyway. So yes, let's hear in the comments below. I'll also leave some of my social media links below so you can see more from me here on Moorland Tactical and my sister channel, Moorland EDC. No, I got those the wrong way around, but you know what I mean. But for now, as always, stay safe, stay Moorlander, and stay EDC.